There's a new AI model out this week that's genuinely worth paying attention to, even if you never personally download it or run it, because of what it represents for where this industry is heading. It's called Kimi K3. It comes from a Chinese startup called Moonshot AI, and it's being described as the world's largest open AI model with 2.8 trillion parameters. Let's talk about what that actually means, who's behind it, and why an open weight model at this scale matters, even to people who will only ever use ChatGPT or Claude. My name is Kelley Parker. If you enjoyed today's video, take a moment to hit the like button, comment below, and hit the bell to be notified of my next video. Because this isn't some random garage project, this is a serious, well-funded player. Moonshot AI was founded in 2023, and it's backed by two of China's biggest tech companies, Alibaba and Tencent. As of earlier this year, the company had reached a $20 billion valuation following a $2 billion funding round, and their annual recurring revenue was already reported above $200 million. This is a company operating at a genuinely serious scale, not a research curiosity. Now let's talk about that 2.8 trillion parameter number, because it's worth understanding what parameter count actually tells you, and just as importantly, what it doesn't. Parameters are, roughly speaking, the individual adjustable values inside a neural network that get tuned during training. Think of them as the dials that get set to encode everything the model learned. More parameters generally correlates with more capacity to capture complex patterns, but it's not a clean, direct measure of how smart a model is. And it's definitely not something you can use to directly compare across companies, because neither OpenAI nor Anthropic publicly discloses the parameter counts of their current models. So when Moonshot says Kimi K3 is the largest open model, that claim is meaningful and verifiable specifically because it is open weight. Anyone can actually inspect it. But comparing that number directly against ChatGPT or Claude's unknown parameter counts isn't really an apples to apples comparison. It's really only telling you it's large relative to other open models. There's a specific architectural detail worth knowing here too, because it's how modern models manage to get this large without being completely impractical to run. It's very likely, following the pattern of other recent frontier scale models at this size, that Kimi K3 uses what's called a mixture of experts architecture. Instead of activating every single one of those 2.8 trillion parameters for every single request, a mixture of experts model is broken into many smaller specialized sub-networks, and a routing mechanism decides which subset of those sub-networks actually needs to activate for any given input. The practical effect is that the model can have an enormous total parameter count, giving it a huge amount of stored knowledge and capacity, while only actually computing through a much smaller fraction of that total for any individual response, which keeps inference costs and speed far more reasonable than you'd expect from the headline parameter number alone. This is exactly the kind of architectural trick that's made releasing genuinely frontier scale open models even feasible in the first place. What actually matters more than the raw parameter count is real world benchmark performance, and here's where it gets interesting. Moonshot is positioning Kimi K3 as frontier level, and according to their own claims, it performs competitively with Anthropic's most recent Claude model on certain benchmarks, particularly around coding and agent-based tasks, meaning tasks where the model needs to take multi-step actions, use tools, and work somewhat autonomously toward a goal, not just answer a single question. Moonshot themselves acknowledge, though, that Kimi K3's overall capacity still trails the very top frontier models from Anthropic and OpenAI. So this isn't a new undisputed best model in the world story. It's a credible, serious, open competitor closing the gap story, which honestly might matter more in the long run. And that's really the heart of why this is worth your attention, even if you never touch it yourself. Kimi K3 is open weight, meaning the actual trained model file itself is publicly downloadable, similar to how Meta's Llama models work. That's fundamentally different from ChatGPT or Claude, which are proprietary. You access them through an API or a chat interface, but you never get the actual model weights. You never get to run them on your own hardware, and you're always dependent on that company's servers, pricing, and availability. An open weight model at genuinely frontier competitive capacity changes the calculus for a lot of use cases. Companies that need to keep data entirely in-house for compliance or security reasons can now consider running something closer to frontier level capability on their own infrastructure. Researchers can actually inspect, fine-tune, and study how the model behaves internally instead of treating it as a black box behind an API. And competitively puts real pressure on the closed labs. When a well-funded, serious competitor releases something this capable for free, it changes the pricing and positioning conversation across the entire industry. And history with Llama and DeepSeek's earlier releases has already shown that open releases at this level tend to accelerate the whole field, because thousands of independent developers immediately start building on top of it, fine-tuning it, and finding new applications the original company never anticipated. It's also worth putting this specific release in the context of where it's coming from, because that matters for the bigger geopolitical picture of this industry. DeepSeek's earlier open releases already demonstrated that Chinese AI labs are capable of producing genuinely frontier competitive models, and Kimi K3 is really a continuation of that same story rather than an isolated surprise. A signal that frontier level AI development is no longer something only happening in only a small handful of companies concentrated in one country. For a long time, the assumption in a lot of Western tech coverage was that the very top tier of AI capability was effectively a 2 or 3 company race, all based in the US. Releases like this one are a pretty direct challenge to that assumption. And regardless of how you feel about the geopolitics of it, it's a genuinely important trend to understand if you're trying to predict where AI tooling, pricing, and capability are actually heading over the next few years. Kimi K3 probably isn't going to replace your ChatGPT or Claude subscription tomorrow, and Moonshot themselves admit it's not quite at the very top of the field yet, but a well-funded, serious company releasing something this large and this capable as an open weight model is a genuine signal about where the competitive landscape in AI is heading. Increasingly global, increasingly open at the frontier, not just concentrated in a small handful of US-based closed labs. That's worth watching regardless of which specific tool you personally end up using. And if this video helped you make sense of where Kimi K3 fits in the bigger AI picture, hit that like button. It genuinely helps. Subscribe to me if you want to keep tracking these major model releases as they happen, because this space is moving fast and I want to keep you current on it. Let me know in the comments if you want me to actually run Kimi K3 through some real benchmark tasks myself and show the results. Thanks y'all for watching, and we'll see y'all right here on my next video here on youtube.com/@KelleyParker.